Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. We are very happy to have you here on this Wow Wednesday. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Carrie Knuth. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Life for the Ivy Tech Fort Wayne campus, and I'm also the advisor for Campus Activities Board. And for Campus Activities Board, we are responsible for bringing programming to our student body every week. Our programming is entertaining, engaging, and educational, and we often partner with other organizations like we did today with Goalie Amigos. We are joined today by several members from Goalie Amigos, but the advisor is Joanne Alvarez, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us today. I am Joanne Alvarez. I'm the advisor to Goalie Amigos, and today our students will take you on a journey to learn more about Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos. While the tradition may seem new to many within the United States, Dia de los Muertos has been a part of Mexico and those of Mexican heritage within the US, and even celebrated throughout the world for over 3,000 years. As you listen to the students present, you will learn that Dia de los Muertos is a celebration of our loved ones' lives. It is a time to share memories, laugh, and remember all of the things we loved about the person who has passed. During this time of COVID, however, with over 225,000 lives lost, the death of family and friends may not yet allow people to celebrate, as many are still in the grieving process. And so mourning the loss of a loved one can take time, and that is okay. Here to share more about Dia de los Muertos, Goalie Amigos students will take you through a socially distanced, mask-wearing journey to explain some of the traditions and meanings for those who celebrate. Towards the end of the presentation, there will be an opportunity to share, ask questions, and speak to Lauro Zuniga from the Hispanic Leadership Coalition, who likes to participate in this annual tradition. Again, thanks for joining us, and at this time, I will turn it over to our president of Goalie Amigos, Susana Ruiz.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susana Ruiz. I am the current president of Goalie Amigos. Thank you for coming to our event. I'm going to have Joanne show a PowerPoint so we can get started. Okay, so this is our Dia de los Muertos event. This event is presented by Goalie Amigos, Hispanic Leadership Coalition of Northeast Indiana, and CAB. HLCNI's mission statement is to empower the Latino community through leadership and education. And as goal, our mission statement is to educate, engage, and support Ivy Tech students by promoting events and leadership opportunities that advance the Latino culture. What is Day of the Dead? Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is a multi-holiday celebrated in Mexico and in regions of Latin America. On Dia de los Muertos, Latin Americans pay homage and honor to loved ones who have passed. Dia de los Muertos celebrations begin on November 1st. November 1st is Dia de los Inocentes, where family members celebrate the lives of children. And on November 2nd, family members celebrate the lives of adults. Is there a difference between Dia de los Muertos and Halloween? Christina Lee, our vice president, will share with you guys.
Hi, I am the sitting vice president of Goalie Amigos. And so what is the difference between Day of the Dead and Halloween? Just starting with like the basics, Halloween is typically just one night here in the United States, and then Day of the Dead spans 2 nights, like Susana had said. Both holidays, both of them touch on death, but Halloween tends to focus more on like the fear of it, while Day of the Dead is more of a celebration and a remembrance of a person's life. Really what people would say, it's a holiday about laughing in the face of death, while Halloween, that's what really Halloween lacks, is this dimension that makes Day of the Dead so important to the Latino community And the laughing in the face of death, the celebration, and the remembrance of people's lives is what is so strongly intertwined within the entire celebration. And so we're going to go into a short film that is about 3 or 4 minutes long by Film School Shorts.
Amigos, in collaboration with HLC&I, decided to put together an ofrenda remembering our family members, taking social distancing into consideration and following CDC guidelines. We put together an ofrenda at the Allen County Public Library. The following 10-minute video will show our building process and the stories of our family members.
Hi, my name is Joanne Alvarez, and I am the Director of Student Success and Retention, along with the advisor to GOL y Amigos. GOL stands for Graduating Outstanding Achieving Latinos and Friends, because our friends don't always look like us.
Hi, my name is Susana Reese-Fier, and I am the President of GOL y Amigos.
Hi, my name is Christina. I am the Vice President to GOL y Amigos.
Hello, I am Aaron Rose. I am the Treasurer to GOL y Amigos.
Hello, my name is Maggie, and I'm a first-year GOL member.
Hi, my name is Marvin Molina, and I am also a first-semester member.
Dia de los Muertos is a traditional Mexican holiday observed to honor and prepare offerings for family and friends who have passed away. Though commonly mistaken as a Mexican version of Halloween, they are not related. It's a time to guide loved ones through their spiritual journey and a time to remember those who have passed. When is Day of the Dead? Well, we're actually a little bit early. Day of the Dead begins on November 1st and ends on November 2nd. November 1st is El Día de los Inocentes, or the Day of the Innocent, commonly observed to remember the children, and All Saints' Day. November 2nd is All Souls' Day, or Day of the Dead. According to tradition, the gates of heaven are opened at midnight on October 31st, and the spirits of the children can rejoin their families for 24 hours. And then the spirits of the adults can do the same on November 2nd. Now we'll have Susanna, Aaron, and Maggie explain the individual elements.
Parts of the altar. So, why do we build the altar? Day of the Dead altars, also known as ofrendas, are constructed and adorned to remember, honor, and please the dead. Ofrendas are a central symbol of the celebrations of Dia de los Muertos. There are many traditional elements of an altar that can be grouped into the four natural elements of fire, earth, water, and wind. Although these are important factors of an ofrenda, not all altars are built the same, because each family makes it special to honor their departed loved ones. Is placed at the top and in the middle of the altar. Images of saints are also placed to serve as reminders of their role as intermediaries between the living, the dead, and the beyond. Papel picado is colorful tissue paper rectangles that are cut to display Dia de los Muertos designs. Papel picado symbolizes the element of wind. It is hung from a string and placed above, on the front, and on the sides of the altar, guiding the spirits to the ofrendas. Belongings of the deceased. The purpose of the ofrenda, or the altar, is to honor and welcome back loved ones. What a better way to do so by placing their favorite foods, drinks, or objects that represent their favorite things. For altars that honor children, family members also frequently place toys.
Another part of the altar is the marigolds and flowers, which are also known as cempasúchil. It's the bright yellow Mexican marigold, also known as the flor de muerto. It is the main flower that we see on grave sites and altars. It has a strong scent and bright color, which are believed to attract the spirits of the deceased as they come to visit their family on the Day of the Dead. The orange and yellow color of the marigold, which are either fresh or dried, are also believed to help the souls of the departed to keep their way along the path in the afterlife. The petals of the marigolds are often spread to cover a level of the altar. On our altar, these are represented by our beautiful gold and orange flowers.
Copal, the special fragrance of this ancient origin resin from a tree of the same name. It has two meanings. The first is to purify the place of evil spirits where the altar is located, and the other is a connection with the sky. It is believed that as the aromatic smoke of the copal rises, it makes a connection with the dead.
Another part of the altar is the food/bread. The most common food offering for the spirits is bread, which is also called pan de muerto, or the bread of the dead. It is a round loaf of bread that may be decorated with pictures of bones and then sprinkled with white sugar. It can be made with typical baking ingredients found in your home and a few more interesting ingredients like anise seeds and orange zest. Its importance upon the altar is to provide nourishment for the spirit and the family.
There are two types of candles that each have their own meaning. The basic, unadorned paraffin cereal symbolizes the soul being alone and are typically placed in a cross representing the cardinal points. Velas, which are typically in a glass container adorned with the image of a saint, serve as a guide to light the deceased's way in the ascension of the spirit.
Water. Having water on the altar represents the purity of the soul. It is believed that the water, like the pan de muerto, will quench the thirst of thirsty spirits and give them some energy for their journey into the beyond. The altar will often include beverages, dishes, and casseroles that the deceased enjoyed on earth. In addition to pleasing the departed, this element helps to bring back favorite memories of the deceased. Some people will also put liquor, chocolate, tequila, and wine on their altar. Some of our GOAL members joined in with bringing photos of their family members, and here are the stories behind them.
So this is my grandpa. His name is Manuel, but I always called him Pa Manuel. The reason why I'm doing this is to celebrate his life. My favorite memory with him, although I grew up here in the United States and he lived in Mexico, once my family learned to use cell phones, I would video chat with him all the time. So I actually feel like I know him and spent a lot of time with him, even though we were separated.
This is my great-grandma, and normally I wouldn't celebrate Dia de los Muertos, but this gave me a chance to dig up some more of her things and find out more about her. So this is her holding me when I was born, and then this is her with my brother and I on Christmas. And she was a really artistic person, so I brought out one of her outfits that she actually made. So she used to sew a lot, so this is a shirt, and then there's some pants and a jacket in there. And she also had a lot of pottery that she painted as well, and I couldn't find any, but she was just a really artistic person, and she taught me a lot about making things. And she was just a really sweet lady. And I also found her obituary, which has a lot of information about her. She had a lot of kids, grandkids, and then I'm one of her great-grandkids. And yeah.
Hi, I'm going to be explaining my husband's grandfather. His name is Robert L. Zinsmaster. He worked on the railroad, so that's why we brought in one of these little trains that he had. One of his favorite memories by his grandfather is that one time they were swimming in his pond and he was practicing for his triathlon, and he asked his grandfather to be his lifeguard, and his grandfather said, "Well, I'm a bit too old for that."
Better learn to swim quick, kid. He had a bit of a dark sense of humor some days, but it was always making all of us laugh.
Hi everyone. For today's Day of the Dead celebration, I brought a picture of my grandma. Her name was Miriam, and she passed away 8 years ago due to health-related issues. Even though she had a rough time due to her health conditions, she always had a smile for me. And I know time has passed, but I still have the good memories from the time I spent with her. I like to think that I was her favorite grandkid, because she only had 3 grandkids and I was the one who spent more time with her than my siblings. My older brother was more attached to our grandfather, and my sister was only 4 when our grandma passed away, so she doesn't remember a lot about her. We are originally from El Salvador, and we don't celebrate the Day of the Dead as Mexicans do, so I found this as an opportunity to learn more about our Hispanic culture, because we might be from different countries, but we are all Latinos.
You may have noticed that there are books all over our ofrenda. The downtown public library was kind enough to let us use a meeting room to create this ofrenda, so we decided to use some of the resources that they had available to us to create it. We found a book called Dia de los Muertos in the Children's Holiday section by Roseanne Greenfield. It was a really informative poem about the Day of the Dead, in which they used vocabulary in Spanish to teach young readers about the important elements of the day.
Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we hope that you enjoyed our collaboration with the Hispanic Leadership Coalition of Northeast Indiana on our presentation of what is an altar and how to build one.
And we would like to invite GOAL member Maggie to share her experience with Dia de los Muertos.
Hi everyone, my name is Maggie, and being that I am not a member of the Hispanic community, I normally would not celebrate Dia de los Muertos, but it was really nice to find the memories that my great-grandma left behind and look for some of her items. And not only did that get me involved in celebrating her life, but my family was helping me look for some of her items as well. So it was really nice because it kind of struck up a conversation about her, and we remembered all of the things that she loved all over again, and how much she loved us. And it was really nice to remember her life in that way.
joining us shortly will be Lauro Sinuga, but he should be here in the next couple minutes. I'm going to have Joanne take the spot for now.
So at this point, we did want to stop. So the students, I'm very proud of the students and the work they did as they took this journey in working and learning more about Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos. And I wondered if anybody on the panel, I'm sorry, anybody here in the audience had any questions for our students, maybe around what they learned or anything that you might be curious about. And you can also throw those in the chat. And it looks like I have one here. Somebody asked, and Susana, you may know more. How long do you leave up the ofrenda? So the ofrenda, in case anybody missed it, is the altar.
Usually, it's like setting up for any other holiday. Families will set up maybe a couple days before November 1st and November 2nd. And they usually take it down whenever they have the time to take it down. It could be a couple days later or on the 3rd, just depending on the family and how long they want to keep up their altar.
And is it popular for families to go to the gravesite instead of putting up an altar in the household? How does that work?
I actually, even though I'm Mexican, during Going Amigos putting up our ofrenda table together, I learned a lot about just us as a group. Marvin in his section explained that as a Salvadorian, they like to go to the grave sites, clean them up, and put flowers. My family is Catholic, and that's usually what we do for Dia de los Muertos.
And I will share that my family in Mexico, they do the same. They go to the graveyard and they'll clean it up, because unlike here in the US, over in Mexico, you have to keep your own graveyards clean. You have to make sure that you're pulling out the weeds and that you're bringing flowers, or that you're doing what you can to keep it alive and looking fresh. It's important. And so there will be family members who will have picnics around the graveyard and bring in food and music, and there's a lot of celebration and laughter that takes place within the graveyard during Day of the Dead. And then for family members who are here that are originally from Mexico, my mother-in-law who lives with us, she will light a candle for her husband and her son on every year on Dia de los Muertos, along with their birthdays. And so that's part of the religious aspect that comes into it as well, the candles and the prayers. Carrie has a question.
So my knowledge before today of Dia de los Muertos came from the Disney movie Coco, which is a really super cute movie. But I wanted to ask any of our pros here, if there were any inaccuracies that were portrayed in the movie that you wanted to clear the air with and mention.
So I can actually share on that because, so Coco, I haven't seen it, but the first time that it came out years ago, right? I don't have little ones where everything's on repeat. But I actually was surprised at how many accuracies there were. And in reading, what I found was that they had a lot of indigenous people working on the film so that they could make sure that they portray things correctly, and so that it could be a good representation of the Latino culture. And so everything from the dog and the type of dog and the name of the dog that came out as one of the main characters is a very popular dog within that specific area and region of Mexico. And so, yeah, I personally didn't hear anything negative in that as far as that aspect. In fact, the whole family was sitting around watching it in amazement at it was like, oh, some familiarity on the screen. It was pretty nice. Anybody else want to share anything about Coco the movie? Oh, Megan says another one is the Book of Life. Somebody said that the two were very connected, very similar. And so I don't know, it's the movie, The Book of Life, if that's something we need to check out.
The Book of Life is like one of my favorite movies that I've watched about like all of that. It taught me a lot, like seeing the different ways that I like learning things about different cultures, and it showed me how that it's not very different from me being just a Catholic, and how I can relate to different aspects of someone else's culture.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing, Megan. There is another question that came up, and it says, within the Hispanic community, is it viewed more as a Catholic tradition or more of a sort of pagan tradition? What are your thoughts on that? Susana, before you leave, I know you have to run off to class soon, but what are your thoughts on that question?
I see it as more of a cultural thing, even though there are small differences between the way you celebrate it religiously to how you would celebrate it culturally. I like to embrace it on both ends. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, and one of the things that, in speaking to the group that I shared with the students, is you can look at Halloween. Some people will take a look at Halloween and they will see the pagan aspect, or they will talk about the devil in Halloween, or death in a negative manner. And really it's up to the family or the community that person grew up in, right? As compared to other people who look at Halloween as just a fun tradition, a day they go out and get candy, right? And so you'll have different schools of thought. But I will say that as a Catholic who did not grow up putting up an altar, we had thoughts that there was a lot of religious symbolism within it. Even when you talk about the water and replenishing of the soul and their journey, we will connect it to heaven. And we actually have more of an expert, somebody who is part of the Hispanic community, Hispanic Leadership Coalition of Northeast Indiana, Lauro Zuniga, and we are going to ask him to share a little bit. And then I saw that there was a question on sugar skulls. So let's see what he touches on sugar skulls. And if not, we can see if we can get your question answered, Cynthia, the significance of the sugar skull. All right, Laura, we're going to ask you to share.
Hey, everyone. So happy to be on this call with you all. And happy to be teaching about such a wonderful holiday for us Latinos, more specifically, those who have a Mexican background. As you've been learning throughout this hour, El Día de los Muertos signifies a lot to different people in many different ways. I myself didn't grow up celebrating it up until I was more grown up. My family didn't really create an altar. Well, my immediate family. I have a lot of extended family members who do and who do take it a lot more seriously. But for my immediate family, we didn't really grow up with it. And that has a lot to do with like the region of Mexico that you find yourself in. A lot of I think it's more prominent in deeper Mexico, more central and southern, and in other areas. My family's from the border on both the American side and the Mexican side, and there you do see it, but not as it's not as I guess prominent throughout the days that it is in, let's say, like Mexico City, to say it like that. But definitely when I grew up, I started celebrating it a lot more once I understood the value and the significance for me as a person, as an individual, and as a means of expressing my culture so that others could benefit from it as well. I think 2018, 2019 was the first year that I myself in my own home created an altar for for my ancestors, and it was a really cool experience. It wasn't as elaborate as I would have liked, but it was an altar nonetheless. And I thought it was a really cool experience to just dip my toes into and really pay homage to my ancestors who continue to do so much for me, and to be quite honest with you, have really set me up for success through a lot of the actions that they did. And I'm going to share a couple pictures that I put up for my altar. Let me see if I can pull it up. So I made kind of like a small presentation about El Dia de los Muertos. And one of the pictures that I love the most is this one of my paternal great grandparents who, let me see if I can put this up, sorry. There we go. So these are my paternal great grandparents, these two. Does the cursor, can you see where I point with the cursor or no? Yes.
Yes.
So these are my paternal great grandparents, and they are actually from, for those of you who know the geography of Mexico, they're from a state called Nuevo León, which is next to Tamaulipas, which is where my family is from. And I really love this picture, one, because it's very, very Mexican, I suppose, very the time of the revolution or post-revolution. And I love that picture for it. But my paternal great grandparents gave birth to my grandma, who is pictured here. And it's really interesting just to honor them, because they were two very hardworking individuals who were really recognized in their community for their contributions to their community, both you know, as community members, but also people who created jobs for others. And these are their family members. I don't really know who they are specifically, but I just really love the picture for itself. And it's a picture that's in my house, and it's also on my altar, you know, because thanks to their actions, my grandma was able to have a really nice life. And thanks to my grandma, we were too. So even though we shouldn't, you know, always give thanks for materialistic things, you know, my great grandparents, they did a lot for us, and we still reap those benefits today. So it's really interesting. It's really a priority for me to basically, you know, put them on my altar so that they know that I'm thinking of them. You know, for those of you who have seen Coco or perhaps haven't seen the titular song, you know, Recuérdame or Remember Me, there's so much truth to that song and to the message of that movie, because it's kind of like we can't forget how much our ancestors did for us. So the second are my maternal great grandparents, and a really fascinating story about them is that they're not my grandma's parents. They're her aunt and uncle, because my own grandma's parents passed away before, when she was really young. So I don't believe I have a picture of them. I think I do, I don't know. But I still pay homage to them. And I remember as a kid seeing this picture and not really knowing who they were, because I frequented my paternal family more than my maternal family. And it was just like they're present in my grandparents' living room. And it always intrigued me. So now as an adult, you know, that you understand more about the world and more about the significance of these individuals in your life. It's really nice to have that picture there, and to like just, I guess, whenever I look at it, it just it takes me back to when I was a kid in my grandparents' living room, and seeing that picture there, and just so ominous, I suppose. And this is one of my great uncles. His name is Rodrigo, who was he was my paternal grandma's brother. And I love this picture of him because, you know, he was a really well-known man throughout the state of Nuevo León for a lot of the work that he did. And I just look up to him because he got to be very well known, basically. And it was very, it's always really cool to hear about what he did with his life from my grandma, and the type of work that he did in education and whatnot. And he's just one of the figures that I never got to personally meet, but that holds a lot of value in my heart, and he's always present in my altar and in my mind too. So these are just like kind of a little bit of the pictures that I, as myself as a person, of how I celebrate and the people who I celebrate on the El Dia de los Muertos. And I didn't include all of them because obviously, like, it's a lot of pictures and it's a lot of stories to tell. But these individuals all hold a special place in my heart. And I believe there was a question about sugar skulls. I did some research before, and I'm not sure what you guys learned about the altar. I'm sure this is rehashing or preaching to the choir of information, but the sugar skulls, they serve to remind us that death can be sweet. For those of you who are learning about El Dia de los Muertos for the first time today, we as Mexicans, we don't view death as something final, as something that just, makes an end to something. Quite the contrary, it's just a step to another life. And we embrace death, we celebrate death, we ridicule death. As you can see through a sugar skull, I think for Americans, their approach to death is very, formal, very concrete, very austere. Like, death is just final, that's it. There's really nothing after that. But in Mexico and in a lot of Latin American countries, we see death as more so like something we embrace, a part of life that is always going to be there. And because it's always going to be there, we should never be afraid of it, or we should never try to, I guess, push it away or make it seem like it's something inevitable. Quite the contrary, invite it into your home and eat with it, celebrate with it, drink with it, because at the end of the day, it's just a part of a cycle of life, and it's just a step forward. So that's one of the things that the sugar skulls represent, is that death can be sweet, and it's just it's an old friend, like it's often said. So a lot of the altar elements, they do have a bit of significance, such as, the papel picado, it serves between, I don't know if you guys ever see, a lot of marketing in the United States oftentimes features papel picado, which is, what Americans see as like tissue paper with different like skulls and different like figures on it. That serves to us as, the bridge between this world and the other. And it's also like the wind, it also represents life. And it's so odd how like papel picado, it's a very Mexican thing, but it's like used to generalize Latin America in general. It may be present in other Latin American cultures, I'm not really sure. One thing that I thought was really sad when I was researching more stuff about this, we often associate death with adults, with older adults, but a part of an altar can be toys, because oftentimes children are lost at a very early age. So those can be there too. Also, El pan de muerto, I don't know if there's any bakeries around town, probably in Fort Wayne, that sell pan de muerto. It's really good. Please try it out if you haven't, with some coffee or with some warm milk. Pan de muerto basically is, this bread of the dead. It does not contain dead people, but it has like these figurines on top of it that resemble bones. And it's basically, the bones represent, one, the cross, like the Holy Cross, going back to the Catholic symbolism that Joanne was saying, and also the 4 cardinal points, north, west, south, and east. And that's what basically, that when you see it, that's what it is. And then what else? It's like the petate, which is basically like a mat so the souls can rest, candles to light the way, photographs or personal objects, water to satiate thirst. I think you guys touched upon it. And yeah, just different elements. And really, I'm not sure if there's like a strict like guidelines that you have to follow on how you can honor, those who you love the most. But definitely, it's always okay, I guess, to get creative with how you honor. But yeah. And yeah, I'm like available for questions or whatever, or to share any of my experiences. One thing too that I wanted to mention, I didn't put it into my presentation because I'm a little superstitious, but my paternal grandmother, she makes wreaths. In Mexico, they're called coronas. And she makes wreaths throughout the year for anyone who's looking to put a wreath on their loved one's tombstone. But this is obviously a very busy season for her. And my aunt actually posted on Facebook the other day of like my grandma's like all the work that she had done up until now. But it's pretty cool. And around this time, you'll see not only the cempasúchil flowers around cemeteries, but also like coronas too. And that just varies depending on the region of Mexico you find yourself in.
And I'm going to touch on something Lauro said. For the last couple of years, back when we were on campus, remember that, guys, a long time ago? When we were on campus, we actually had pan de muerto. We shared different breads with the Ivy Tech campus and had tables full for people to try. And we had altars and pictures. And so, yeah, they do there's a Mexican bakery here on Wells Street, and we would pre-order our bread, and you can do that. But anyway, great little place to find some of those goodies. And can I just read a little bit from the chat, and then Lauro, if you want to jump in there and answer any of these. Some of them are comments. Megan says, I feel like it's such a better outlook, especially as I work as a CNA in a nursing home. And I hope that my residents are finding peace with their loved ones in the end. That's really nice, important work, Megan.
It is. It's definitely important work. And I think maybe teaching them about this holiday would help them, I guess, ease. I mean, honestly, when I say that in Mexico as a culture, we treat death as a friend, it literally is. It's in our psyche. It's in our way of being. I mean, I think when I say that we literally joke about death, we really do. I know it sounds morbid to maybe people who aren't used to like the Mexican culture or Latin American culture, but really it is, because it's I guess we just don't see it as like the end all be all. We just see it as a next step. Like we're aware that our ancestors are always with us, whether you're religious or you're not. You're always aware that your ancestors are around you, I suppose, and that, everything you do, that they're looking down on you. And I mean, I personally think that it's very beautiful. When I go back home to visit Mexico, as often as I can, just like being in the same area, because we all live in the same literally like lot, as my ancestors, it's wonderful, or being in their house too. It's just like their presence is there.
And Rebecca says that her family, when somebody dies, they have a big party to celebrate their life. They even have mariachis and Aztec dancers.
Yeah, it's like there's this really like I guess morbid saying in Spanish is like el muerto al pozo y el vivo al gozo, which is like the dead person to the pit, and the alive person to the party. It sounds better in Spanish. But their souls will celebrate with us, and I think that's something that should definitely be celebrated.
Somebody else says, so would it be weird to ask about funerals and how Day of the Dead may help with the mourning process? There's somebody watching that says that funerals within her family are pretty jovial.
Yeah, I think so it's something that like my family discusses a lot too, is just like, oh, like when I die, nobody be crying, on the contrary, be celebrating. And I think it's really important to remember that at the end of the day, you're celebrating someone's life. You're not like finalizing and putting, closing it up and saying like, we're never going to think of them again. It's quite the contrary. It's celebrating that person's life and their contributions to not only your life as an individual, but like your family as well too. I think that funerals should be jovial. I mean, I think there's a moment and a place where, we should be somber and pay our respects in the way that we've been taught. But I think there's also like after that moment, it's about like saying like, let's all get together. Let's just celebrate what their life did to us, So definitely, I don't discriminate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Megan says to tell stories and remember.
Yeah,
and so at this point, I just wanted to see if anybody wanted to share a story and remember, or did you have any more questions? You can go ahead and unmute yourselves. You should be able to do that if you want to share.
At my grandpa's funeral, my family and I, we are a very close family. So when he passed away, we ended up all standing by his casket singing his favorite song, and we told stories of how, like, our favorite moments with him. When he passed on the farm. So my cousins and I, we all laid outside staring at the stars, singing his songs, and we were just remembering our moments with him because he was where he belonged. He's still here on the farm with us because he never left.
And then how beautiful that you have a space that you can physically remember him from, because you know you're on that farm and you're like, this is where he was happiest. So it's great that you have that, you know. And I hope that a lot of people do have that, at least a memento. And I guess that's a part of the altar, you know, like putting that memento that reminds you of that person.
Great. Well, I wondered at this point, we do only have a few minutes, and I know that Carrie's going to do some wrap up. But before she does that, I wanted to go ahead and open it up again and see if anybody had any questions, or Laudo, if there was anything else you wanted to add, because we appreciate the fact that you do have personal experience working with Dia de los Muertos at an altar and paying homage to the people we love most, or you love the most. So I just wondered if there's anybody else that wanted to speak up a little bit.
I would just say that if you have the opportunity, once, you know, traveling isn't as dangerous, please definitely consider, you know, visiting Mexico around this time. It's very, very beautiful, because there's so much joy in the air, because of this, because we see death as you know, as just a companion, not so much like as a morbid. You know, there's going to be beautiful colors all around and whatnot, and yeah, definitely check it out if you can.
And Rebecca, do you want to share? I'm going to let you unmute.
Yeah, so I had just moved here from California, and I joined here. And then I know like COVID has like all these restrictions that we cannot do things. So I was just wondering how you came like about to like getting people to do the prenda and stuff. Because I wanted to like do like activities and stuff. When I came here, I didn't really meet anybody, especially like that's also like my culture and stuff. And you know, in California, we have a lot of that. So I seen this and I wanted to be a part of it. But so I was wondering, like, do you guys do any other activities, or how, like, I don't like know anything.
Sure.
I've just barely moved here, like not even a year. So.
Oh my gosh, Rebecca, we have to get you connected to Goli Amigos. We actually, Christina put it in the chat for us. We're actually we connected with the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, because every year they do have an event where they have ofrendas throughout the museum, and so you can go take a look. And of course, because of COVID, it is closed, but they invited us to send in photos. You can upload a photo if you go to the Fort Wayne Museum of Art website, and you upload a photo and you share a story of your loved one, and then they will display it because they have a virtual option this year. And so, Rebecca, I'm also going to, and this is for anybody else who's interested, I'm going to put my email in the chat box so that if you're interested in joining Goli Amigos, shoot me an email and we'll get you connected, because we meet every other week. Twice a month is when we meet, Tuesdays at 5 p.m., 5 to 6:30. We meet virtually, and this is the very first time we actually got together since spring semester of last year. And if you noticed in our video, we got together, but we had our masks, we kept 6 feet apart, and we had our hand sanitizer. And so we were very careful, but we knew that we needed to get together to put up an altar so that they could help. I think they did a great job of explaining the altar that they put together. And Christina was kind enough to put in a link to the Fort Wayne Museum of Art if anybody is interested in uploading a picture of their loved one and sharing a memory of them. Thank you, Christina, for doing that.
Also, I'd like to really,
Please jump in.
Yeah, I'd like to give a special shout out and plug to Hispanos Unidos is a student-led organization at Purdue Fort Wayne. You don't have to be a Purdue Fort Wayne student to join. They accept community members as well. Definitely look them up on Instagram, or if you send Joanne an email, if any of you all are interested in joining the organization, I can connect you to them too. But definitely connect with them too. They're a really good organization to be connected to in terms of also cultural events. And I mean, maybe next month or next year for Dia de los Muertos, Goli Amigos and Hispanos Unidos can join forces, because it's imperative that we all, I guess, do our part to like promulgate culture and understanding, and for the greater Fort Wayne community also to be connected to each other.
Mm-hmm. And we have done some events in the past as well with Hispanos Unidos from Purdue Fort Wayne. In fact, we like, as Goli Amigos, as students graduate, we like to have that connection so that we can nicely transfer students over, and they already have friends that they've made at the university. So thanks, Lauro. Thank you. He's board member to the Hispanic Leadership Coalition of Northeast Indiana. Goli Amigos has been working in partnership since our mission statements align, and so we want to continue our work. Thank you to each one of you for coming. If there are no other questions, and I'm looking at the chat, just checking, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie, who will wrap us up for the day.
It was great talking to you all. Bye.
Awesome.
Thank you, Laura.
Well, thank you to Joanne and Susanna and Aaron and all of our other presenters that are members of Goli Amigos, and also to Lauro for joining us today. And if nobody has any additional questions, we will go ahead and wrap up the event. Joanne, are you seeing any questions in the chat at all that I need to address?
I don't see any questions, just a lot of thank yous, and thank you to all of you for coming. Thank you for asking questions. Thank you for being engaged. We appreciate you being here and joining us.
Awesome. Well, I do want to remind you that we will have the video for this event up probably by tomorrow up on our YouTube channel, link.ivytech.edu/TitanTube. You can always check out all of our past events there if you've missed them. And we look forward to your engagement that way. And we host something every Wednesday. So check us out on Ivy Life, check out all the things we have going on, and we look forward to seeing everybody. So thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.